Alrighty. Well, we will go ahead and get started this morning. As you still see, our coming soon is the youth and young adult back to school bash. That's mainly for those of you that's still in college for the back to school, but that'll be August 10th, and as soon as a time is announced, who won at bowling? Aiden won on one group, and then the silent assassin back here won on the other group. So that would be Miss Darla. So she won on ours, and Aiden.
I think it was Aiden, and then
Brady won the first game, or was it Geneva? Geneva, and then Aiden won the second game.
That's neat. The least amount.
It's the first time.
You kept trying to throw the right.
I don't know.
What?
Kept throwing the ball.
I was only once.
So, but that'll be August 10th. Time will be determined at a later date. So, with that being said, I would like to take the opportunity for those of you that's in here and those that join us online later, or if they ever watch it, I don't know. But last Sunday we came in and had the news about the live stream possibly no longer being able to do that for the amount of followers we have. Well, as of earlier this morning, we went from 36 last Sunday to 204 this morning early. We might have picked up an extra one or two here or there, but I don't know. And then last Sunday's Sunday school lesson was viewed over 3,500 times. So that's what, just sharing, inviting people, that's what that can do for you. Now I did what's the word I'm looking for here? Promote it. That's it. I did promote last week's Sunday school lesson. And I think, what was the last count we had? 21 robots that had hollered back and was fussing and griping because we were promoting the gospel. So that's what you deal with.
How do you know they're robots?
Because of their names, they have no profile.
Okay.
And if they do have a profile, it's nothing. It's just their name. So it's
to try to get on
yeah.
somebody else.
And basically what I've kind of come to the realization of is that whoever's doing behind all these different robots that Facebook has out there, they are more or less doing this to try to engage you in a argument so that they have more of an opportunity to go back to Facebook and shut you down. Because, there's
So
nothing
looking for people to
to argue.
Shut down.
Yeah, that's pretty much the impression I've gotten, because like I've said, and in the letter that Brother Chris read over there in the fellowship Wednesday night, if these robots were real and these people were real and the threat was real, we would have been shut down 6 or 8 months ago when I was promoting the page and different things. Now, you get some crazy people, and if you go back and listen to Wednesday night's message over here, Pastor Chris got into reading a few of the comments, and you can go to the church Facebook page and find the one where he's asking people, if you follow this page, please follow our page, the Sunday school page. So, and you can go down there and look and see what kind of just out there stuff that people put back. I mean, it's all right for the world to go out and promote and push their agenda, but when you try to, tell them about the Lord, they get mad, they come back. And I mean, if I see something I don't like on Facebook, as long as it's not, over the top, I just scroll them by. I don't pay attention to it. So, but these people, they just can't help it that they have to go out of their way to try to, say something derogatory and so forth. But then again, a lot of those people, they're looking for a reaction. That's their whole game. I mean, it's just just kind of one of those back and forth deals that, if you don't, you hate to leave and you hate for other people to see that type of stuff out there, but it's out there. But by not responding to it, you're letting their opinion speak more volumes than you trying to argue with them. I mean, you can get involved in, you can go down so many rabbit holes, and you can find anybody out there in social media willing to spend all day arguing with you if you got the time and you want to invest
So
in
it's kind of
that.
like sports where people, get so where they always have to call people out over some stupid thing on a message board about.
Oh yeah. It's basically the same thing as a sports message board, and that's what people do. And they a lot of these people, they just sit and look for that opportunity to jump on something, just to try to instigate something, so that they can come back and try to get Facebook to do something to shut something down. So by not responding, by not paying it any attention and letting it go, you don't have nothing to worry about. And I've learned that over the times that I've done promotions and what little bit of dealings in this that I've done with Facebook. So like I said, it's disheartening, it's sad, but that's just the reality of it. But it's just like anything else. I mean, if you're doing something to looking for a fight, you're going to find it. If you're doing anything for the Lord, you're going to get some resistance. And honestly, the way I look at it is that if I'm not getting that resistance, then what good are we doing by getting those people to respond? And basically, this is how the algorithms work. In that is that as they're responding back to whatever it is that you're putting out there, in their frail attempt to try to educate you or to disenfranchise you, to put you down or whatever, or try to get you to take the post down, all they're doing is increasing its footprint. Because the more people want to get on there and comment, I mean, how many of you go through Facebook and find a post that, and I already know the answer that this half of the room is going to give, but there's some people that will go out and find a post from 3 or 4 years ago and comment, like, or do something with it. And then what does that do? It throws it right back up present. So the more, you do it, even if you're going 3 or 4 years back on one individual's Facebook page, and I seen that this week. A guy commented on a post from 2018. And here it is, front and center, top of my timeline. I'm like, this is, 6 years ago. but because they just seen it or whatever, or it may have popped up in a memory, I don't know, but they commented back on it and it pops up. So with these people that don't want to see the gospel promoted, the best thing they can do is just leave it alone. Don't say nothing, don't comment, pass it on by. And what happens is it falls out of the algorithm. But by commenting on it, you're just putting it more, you're just giving more need for it to be out there more and more and more. Because then all of those people's friends see it because, excuse me, because then it pops up it'll notify all their friends they commented on something. So it's, it's the old adage that, God can take something the devil means for bad and inevitably bring it out for good. So, but like I said, the good thing is that we are up to 204 followers as of this morning. So that's a praise. As I stood here last Sunday and told you I didn't see us getting to 100. We didn't get to 100. We got to 204. So, I can't say enough about that. So anyway, we are still in our study here in Obadiah. Last week we got started into the thought of the vindictive part of this tough section in this vision that God has given Obadiah. And we'll start reading. Let's just jump back and read verses 10 through 14, since it's been a while since we've read all these, just to kind of get us caught up here where we're at. And it says, verse 10, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever, in the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou wast as one of them. But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother, in the day that he became a stranger. Neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. Neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress. Thou shouldest not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Yea, thou shouldest not have looked upon the affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity. Neither shouldest thou have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape. Neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress. And of course, in this portion of scripture, we're calling this the vindictive part. And last week we kind of got tied up in a little rabbit hole about when we were talking more about the characteristic trait of the meaning of vindictive, and how a lot of times that will become a characteristic trait in our lives if we're not careful, and so forth. So like we said, that's a characteristic trait. And then we talked about, if you could imagine being so mad at someone that you went out of your way to draw attention to something that they did, that is being vindictive towards someone else. And of course, we talked about the natural sin that's in our lives that enables that. I mean, that's something that we don't have to really learn. I mean, it's not something that you have to really do a lot of studying on to learn how to be vindictive. You can see it in, just normal human relationships. You can see it in the lives of siblings. You can see it in the lives of people that you work with and different things like that, and how just vindictive it can get if someone feels that you've crossed them in some way. And that's kind of where we kind of got to. But picking up there to finish out this thought, Edom here in this verse has hit that low point. typically, when we're in a position where we find ourselves being borderline vindictive, it's usually not at the highest part of our life. It's usually not going to be something that we're walking on the clouds, so to speak. We're not on that mountaintop experience, because we associate walking in the clouds or walking on the mountaintop when we're talking in our spiritual life. We're usually equating that to something good that's happening in our life. Things are going our way. We don't, but when things are going bad, that's when, if we're not careful, that vindictive side will come out in us. And I used the example last week about the pressures that I was under in my first job, and how my mom and my sister at home one day did nothing to really cause me to lash out the way I did. And I lashed out at them and just stormed out of the house and went to work. And on my way to work, I was like, this is crazy. This is not, something's got to give here. And that's when I turned in my 2-week notice on my first job, because that was the pressures, the things that were mounting on me put me in that position. I was not at the top of my game. I was not up here where things were going well for me. Things were, the pressures of life were getting to me. And it drew out that vindictive side of me that I lashed out to someone that I love, at least one of them at the time, being my mom, not my sister. Calm down. But still yet it's okay, Bubba. Still yet at the time, I seen that, and I put a stop to that, because that's just how our sin works. That's how the flesh works. These things, the bad side of us will come out when we're at our lowest point. I've never seen somebody be mad and vindictive when everything is going their way. Have you? I mean, that may be a phenomenon that somebody in here's seen, but typically that is not how that works. So, like I said, here, this is where Edom's at. They're at the lowest point, even though here in this passage of Scripture, in this time of Edom's existence, they were not to that point outwardly. And I know I'm kind of, contradicting myself a little bit here, but societally at this time, Edom's they're kind of right up there on that mountaintop, but in their relationship to their brother and the nation of Israel, they were at the low point. They were seeing, they were ready to see something bad happen to Israel. So, even though societally they might have been up here, but inwardly they were down at the bottom. And so they were sly. Edom was sly enough to not personally get involved or interject themselves in this joyous judgment of Israel. And if you look back, it says, neither shouldest thou have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape, neither shouldest thou have delivered up those. So as you see here, they have witnessed Babylon come in. They have witnessed the beginning of the captivity for the nation of Israel as they're kind of coming up. And they're seeing all this happen. Yet here, they're standing, they're blocking. The vindictive part of them, they know people are going to be trying to escape. And yet, they're standing there in the way, the crossway. They're standing there to keep them from escaping. Why? Because they want to see something bad happen to a people that as they see it, and as we said time and time again, as they see it, they're getting the blessings that they so richly deserve. Even though Genesis 25 tells us God had other plans, but the physical, the natural man, they're looking at it as the nation of Edom was. They're looking at it as, you all stole our birthright. We should be the ones that are getting all the blessings of God, even though they had no use for God. They still wanted that blessing. They still wanted all the good things that come with that without following God. I mean, that's just like a child. That's just like us as individuals. I'm going to use Brady back here because I can. And let's just say that, something happens between me and his mama and him, and he gets mad and moves off. He doesn't want anything to do with us right here, but at some point in time down the road, he's going to be expecting that inheritance. He's going to be expecting something good coming back his way. Whereas he left all of that behind. The nation of Israel, or the nation of Edom, Esau, as he had no use for God. When you have no use for God, you can't expect God to give you the blessings that you're only going to receive as being part of his. Brady might have some type of legal standing to get something part of what me and his mother have accomplished in our life as far as an inheritance. But as far as, the goodness of me and his mother giving him his just share, that may or may not happen because of the decisions that he made and the ability that we have to withhold that blessing. That's the same way it is with God. God has all the blessings. He has everything. You can't expect to go out here and live a life of sin like the nation of Edom did and rise up and go against everything that God stands for and expect God to bless you. There's people that expect that. Don't get me wrong. They're not going to get that because the only way you're going to get that blessing is if you stay with the father. You stay with the family. Brady's going to get a full inheritance as long as he stays in good standing with me and his mother. So that's just kind of how that goes. And with Edom and Esau went on his own way. He did not want the blessings of the family. He did not want the blessings of God in his life, and he chose a different path. So as we see here, they're seeing all of this, and they're seeing the nation of Israel trying to escape, because as we know, and you're going back and you're doing any studying of ancient worlds, and I'm using that word ancient, even though it's really not. But if you go back into the Bible times here, the only ones that would have to necessarily fall under Babylonian government and punishment and slavery and whatever else were the ones that were captured and they were carried away. The ones that escaped, they escaped that they don't have to live under the bondage and the thumbnail of the Babylonians. So as they're trying to escape, those that are able and those that can and are willing to escape, try to escape, here's their brother nation standing in their way and keeping them from escaping, and all they're doing is turning them right back into a captivity that they were trying to escape and get away from. So that's kind of just how vindictive that Edom was towards the nation of Israel here. So much so that as Israel fled and feared for their lives, here's the nation of Edom pointing which way they went. They didn't more or less, like if Brady was able to come up here, I could have him come up here and stand and him try to go, and I could just grab a hold of him and say, no, you're not going. But let's say Josiah's looking for Brady and Brady sneaks off, and here I am, I'm standing here saying, Josiah, he's right down there. That's what Edom was doing. They were going, hey, you're looking for Israel, they're over there. That's where you're going to be able to find them. And then they would go, and if it was the young, the healthy, the people that they could really work and gain something from monetarily by putting the nation of Israel into slavery, into bondage, they were going to go after it. Now, let's say somebody of Brother Whitson's age and frailty in his age, Babylon wouldn't want him because he's not going to be able to work as hard and as strong as someone like Brady, who's a whole lot younger and stronger and got a lot longer of a life to live. So, that was just the mentality that existed when a nation would come in and invade. So all the people that were, even Brother Whitson, they were pointing, if Brother Whitson was following Brady and Brady's helping Brother Whitson hide, they'd be like, they're over there. And then Josiah would go over there and he would have the opportunity to decide, is he going to take Brady into captivity or is he going to take Brother Whitson and Brady? And typically they would kind of leave the elder behind because they're not going to be able to work as hard. And they're not going to be able to monetarily gain as much out of someone like Brother Whitson's age and stature as someone much younger like Brady. So as we see here, that's what the nation of Edom was doing. They were not going out and actively taking a hold of the nation of Israel and stopping them. They were blocking them and funneling them into a particular area and then pointing and giving access to that area for the nation of Babylon to come in and carry them off into captivity. So that's what this verse here is talking about. Now, with that being said, you're wondering, well, why wouldn't they actually, take a hold of the nation of Israel as they're trying to leave and stop them? Well, Esau, we're going back to Esau and Jacob right here, the two brothers, the original brothers. This is the two sons of Isaac, the promised child of Abraham that God made that covenant with. Here, Esau, he knows, I'm sure, as he's growing up, he heard his grandfather Abraham telling stories about the interactions that he's had with God. He knows of this man or this deity, called God, this friend of Abraham, God. He's heard all of this. He knows, I'm sure, either first or second hand, heard of God's covenant that he made with Abraham. He knows that those that bless Abraham, God will multiply. Those that rise up against Abraham, God is going to bring judgment against. So, with everything that he's seen, and he's seen how well God has blessed the nation of Israel, he's seen it came from Abraham down to Isaac, and now that promise through the birthright has been passed down to Jacob and the nation of Israel. And that's why the nation of Edom despised the nation of Israel so much. But when it comes right down to it, they knew the nation of Edom. Now, How many of you in your life, just to kind of prove this point, in your family know a lot about the history of where your family came from? Like tracing your family tree and genealogy and stuff like that. Okay, just a couple of us in here, know a little bit about that. But as things go in a family, that one thing that happens to a certain family member, say it was your great grandfather, we'll go back 5 generations. Something happened to your 5 generations ago grandfather. Well, they passed whatever that was down to the 4th generation. Then that got passed down to your grandfather. Then that got passed down to your father, and then that would get passed down to you. Right? And that's kind of how it would go. Well, by the time you get 5 generations down the road, what's going to happen to whatever significant thing that happened to a great-great-grandfather? Exactly. It's going to lose its importance. It's going to lose its significance. It's going to lose the weightiness of that. And with that being said, here we see Esau probably passed down that promise and told his children and his grandchildren and maybe his great-grandchildren, whatever you do, do not rise up against your brother nation, Israel. Just stay away from them. Don't get involved in anything going on with them. They're over there, we're over here. We don't let them come into our territory. You don't go into theirs. There's that line there. You just stay on your side and leave them over there and don't worry about them. As that generation, whatever it is, comes down and gets 5, even 10 generations down, it loses something. So when we get down to where this is, going all the way back to Esau, that promise and that God had made in that covenant that God had made, that the nation of Edom had took so to heart, so to speak, and lived by and had no dealings with the nation of Israel. Now we're so many generations down to the point to where we see the nation of Edom starting to become more interested in the bad things that's happening with the nation of Israel. So much so that they're becoming a fan of watching it. So much so that they're up here trying to get the front row seat, so to speak. And they are so involved and so enwrapped in what's going on with the nation of Israel that now they have forsook and that warning, don't mess with the nation of Israel. Don't have anything to do with them. There was times where the nation of Israel asked their brother, can we cut across through here? And they would say no, and they would make the nation of Israel go the long way around to get where they could, if they could have went the short distance through just cutting through. So this sibling rivalry between Israel and Edom and Jacob and Esau was so strong that Edom would never step foot into Judea or Israel, and Israel, even though they would have, was not allowed to step foot into Edom's territory, the nation of Edom. They were blocked off. So as we see here, because of all of that, because of that stubbornness, and then even though they were not necessarily involved with stopping and holding and wrangling them up and saying, we're going to hold you captive until Babylon comes, they would point out indirectly. So because of their unwillingness to have compassion on their family, on their own blood, God required that same blood of them when he totally destroyed the nation of Israel, or the nation of Edom, I'm sorry. So that vindictiveness is inevitably what caused the demise of the nation of Edom and more or less wiped them off the face of the earth. So, anyway, so that's that. So that will bring us down to the terrible vision, and I've done heard the first bell ring. I've not heard the second one, so I guess we'll cut it off here because I don't know about you, but I'm getting a little warm, even with the fan. Although I'm sure Josiah feels pretty good with the fan blowing on him every now and again, right? Yeah.
Just like John did COVID.
Phew.